The Obama administration scored an important victory this week in its fight to secure a nuclear agreement with Iran when Maryland's Barbara Mikulski became the 34th Senate Democrat to announce her support for the measure, giving President Obama enough votes to sustain a veto if Congress passes a resolution disapproving the deal. Wall Street Journal Global View columnist Bret Stephens joins us with more. So, Bret, this means this deal is moving forward now. Any possible way to stop it?
No. Look, the only way it's going to be stopped is if a vote of disapproval lays a predicate for the next administration to begin to walk away from the deal as Iran cheats, as it will cheat, on aspects of the deal, and as Iran continues to behave the way it always does in the Middle East.
Okay, now the White House is building on, they're not happy with just 37 votes, which I think is the latest count that we have in favor of the deal. They're trying to get 41,
right,
and then filibuster it in the Senate so that using that procedural move, it would never really come up for a formal vote of disapproval and never get to the president's desk.
Right. You had 98 senators voting in May for a bill that would force a vote, and now the Democrats have so little confidence in this agreement that they don't even want to have a vote, because they know that even now a bipartisan majority of both houses of Congress disapprove of the deal.
Are they going to go ahead with that, do you think?
I think they will, but I suspect it's bad politics on the on the Democratic part. It looks very bad that they won't even allow it to come to a vote.
Why did this happen? I mean, the bipartisan opposition, and going into the August recess, it looks like the opponents had some momentum and big ad campaigns against it by the American-Israeli Political Action Committee, and yet the president now prevailing pretty easily.
Well, the president and his supporters rolled out a full-court press against these wavering senators, and the senators claim they convinced them that this was the best deal they could get. They deployed representatives from our European negotiating partners who sat down with them and said, look, we are not going to impose sanctions with you. If you try to do that, you are on your own. And the argument was that U.S. leadership in the world would suffer. U.S. leadership in the world began to suffer the day he began negotiating this deal with the Iranians. But let's understand the bizarre reality here. This is an arms control agreement, and it is going to go through, as we say, with minority support
from
in the Senate.
One party.
Yeah. From one party.
Partisan vote of a minority of both houses of Congress.
It's not passing, it's going through.
Well, and this is the thing. I think in the long run, Democrats are playing a very foolish game because they are making themselves the hostages of the Ayatollah. This deal ultimately is going to depend on whether Iran abides by its terms and whether the Iranians don't use the deal as a base from which to start expanding their influence and testing the deal's limits. That is going to hurt Democrats in the long run because they own this agreement in the way that no Republicans.
So are you saying that they're going to be accountable for what, if Iran cheats on the deal? They're going to be accountable politically if Iran takes the money that's going to come in from the easing of sanctions, invests it in Hezbollah and various terror enterprises. That is going. I mean, the Democrats. If a Democrat were here, he would say, "Look, that's unfair. We're not responsible. This is just an arms accord agreement."
Yeah, except that this is a deal that is going to release anywhere between $50 and $150 billion in the very near term to the Iranians. So all of this is predictable. These aren't sort of unforeseeable or unforeseen consequences. We are talking about this right now as part of the nature of this agreement. And we also know that this is a deal that lets Iran inspect itself when it comes to the nuclear inspections and gives them the possibility for very quick breakout time in the future. So eventually this comes back to haunt them. The Democrats ought to be praying for some kind of extraordinary revolution in Iran that changes the nature of their politics, because otherwise they're on the hook.
Then they could claim, look, we set all this up.
Right.
Otherwise, if Iran cheats and gets away with it, or even begins to have evidence that they cheat, it's going to be very tricky for Democrats.